Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hypertrophy Odyssey. It is the fourth day of the week, aka the Buster Cannon workout. I'm feeling very good right now, very excited for this workout. But anyway, to the main subject matter for today. The interexchange between normies, psychos, and schizos. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because as I looked at all three of these peoples, it is a very interesting dynamic as they all kind of interplay between each other. They are very important to one another in a certain sense where they all balance each other out. Think of it as like a rock, paper, scissors style. And that entire idea is very pertinent in sure society moves in a good way, hopefully, if things are going well. Obviously, if things are in balance as they should be, but more often than not, it's usually not like that at all. But unfortunately, that's just the way that it is sometimes, where there's just balances and ebbs and flows that change, and the causality of certain things make it so that it is impossible for one side to be the all-winning power. Although there are too many causal factors that make it so that there are no balances in such a force. You know, this just happens to be the way it is. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that and a lot of the interchanges between the three and how they actually work together in these interdynamics and how they are important, and also that all sides are equal in a certain sense. So we'll talk about that and a few other things when we get to Mother Base.
All right, to start this day off with leg extensions, which are pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. The interchange between normies, psychos, and schizos. So the main reason why I want to discuss this and make this its own video is because I started talking about it in the last episode, in particular about schizos. But the interexchange between the three groups is very important as their dynamics basically control the way that the world works and how society proceeds forward. I think that a lot of people don't realize that each group is quote unquote important to each other because they all balance each other out in a weird sense, because a majority of the people are normies. They're just generally regular people. And the thing about these people is that even though they might be easily malleable by people who are such as psychos, there is an importance to them as they basically possess the ability in numbers, basically. Without them, without the numbers behind them, you can't really get anything done. On the other side as well, for the schizo, without the normie or somebody to explain these things to, you're preaching to the choir, which can actually frustrate certain types of people, especially because if they already know something that you're telling them, they don't want to listen to you and then will turn around and throw it back at you, and almost like infighting. And that is something that can happen. But the thing is, the normie in this case is somebody that helps balance out everybody, as we have to contend on both sides of the spectrum between the psychos and the schizos to try to balance it all out and try to make sure that the world is continuously going forward. And even though it would be nice to have some type of way where, let's say, the schizo is the only type of person that is around and there would be no more psychos, that would mean that technically there would never be any schizos either, because at the same time then everybody would become normie, right? So it would be one of those things where without any dark there will be no light, and the other way around. These things have to balance each other out, with those in between and the gray being the people that really just control the numbers of just regular folk. And I think that that is an important balance to all of society. And as much as we would like to get rid of the dark, it's one, impossible, and two, to try to do something like that would mean that you would be stepping into the shoes of the psycho in and of itself, which would be a bad idea, and then thus kind of perpetuating the cycle that will forever be there. It's one of those things that you can never really get away from as much as you would like to try, because if you do try to get away from it, it could cause a lot of imbalances to the point where the imbalances will just cause the same system to happen over again, but in a different way or in a different light, but still it's the same fundamental idea. And it's the grasping between good and evil. And I'm not going to say everybody on this is necessarily good and or evil, of course, because this is weirdly one of those things where, yes, there are certain aspects from all three sides that are good and are evil, but it also depends on the person in and of itself and what they might try to do. Of course, there might be some personal leanings that I have, but at the same time, there are certain things that people will do that are normies that would be considered in a good side, where you want to see them be good or evil because they are a lower end a psycho, you know? Between the three dynamics of each other, they kind of all interplay and work on each other to try to see who can prosper in the world of that we're living in currently. Because in today's world, it is tough to be one, a normie, or two, a schizo. If you are a psycho, you could probably prosper in this world of today, as many things are set up for these types of people. But still, it is tough regardless for these types of people as well, because it's a different world than what it once was. It was easier to be a psycho back in the day because nothing really mattered, and there was we're not being watched like hawks at every single second. But thing is that these interplays between each group is very important in making sure that society continues forward and we move on from these things. And hopefully there would be something where more people will go to one side than the other, as obviously we would want the schizos to win in a case like this, but at the same time understanding that if they do win, that they will just replace the other side with something else. And I think that that's the everlasting battle that people don't realize will forever happen, regardless of good or evil, or schizos and psychos and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. The end game will always be the forever cycle of these groups will always continue on no matter what.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed to none. Exercises skipped also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Interchange between normies, psychos, and schizos. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because this is such a weird / very accurate dynamic that describes a lot of niche groups around the world, really. I think that looking outside of it politically, but I don't even want to get into the politics of stuff because politics are that's for a different episode. I think that mainly the entire idea between the three is very insistent on the fact that there are certain things that each group have strengths and weaknesses that we would all kind of intermingle together. And in a sort of weird roundabout way, it really is how the world works, where the dynamic fluids always change and intersect with each other. And you could see how these things kind of go together and make it so that society keeps going, not necessarily progressing, but like more so just making sure that it continues some way, shape, or form. Now, of course, if the psychos are winning, which is happening probably right now, that means that the society that we're living in is probably going to be fucked beyond belief more sooner rather than later, and we're going to have to deal with the consequences of that and all the things that are going to be fucked over because of that. So it is a unfortunate reality when it comes to certain things like that, when there is the evil of certain people that are unbeknownst to many people that will just influence generations of people for a while, and you kind of just have to wait and or hope that the schizos are able to crack the code into their psyche and make it so that they can really see the light. And it's an interesting counterbalance between the two, but not only that, but also the normie being the regular person, the I don't care about a lot of this stuff, the whatever, the person that's willing to ebb and flow, but also is willing to actually live life. It's a weird thing about it where it's like they all have their strengths. Even the normie has their strengths in a weird way, because at the end of the day, if you don't fit into society, you're going to be ostracized regardless of which way you go, if you're a psycho or a schizo. So it's a very interesting thing because you kind of have to remember that part regardless of where you're at, and it helps teach you where you would be within the dynamic. It's something that is fascinating to me because once I heard that theory, it made total sense, and that's why I've been looking at things now through that lens, and everything kind of falls into place. Now, of course, there are other lenses you can look through the world. There are many that we're going to look at through this channel. Eventually, we will get into archetypes and all this other stuff, but I think that this is just a baseline one that I think a lot of people that watch this channel, or at least get the idea of this channel, would understand completely, because it's just such a regular bell curve distribution. I think that people will understand it relatively simply. So with that being said, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one, a final part of this weird mini series that I did about normies, schizos, and psychos. So please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Keep it heavy, stay safe out there, and stay cool, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.